Well, hello. I'm wearing my flying carp hat. You can look them up, the Beloit Flying Carp. Welcome to Ask Aaron. We have just a few questions this week as we continue to talk about sermons that sting a little. This past week, we talked about accountability and being refined. So we're going to jump in. As always, these questions have answers that are mine, not the church's, but I think they agree, and we'd love for you to join in the conversation as well. First question, is seeking a mentor from outside our church okay? Is seeking a mentor from outside your own church okay? Is seeking a mentor from outside your family, your biblical community, whatever you want to say? And I think the answer to this is yes, because a mentor is simply someone who is in a stage of life, spiritually and perhaps physically as well, but not necessarily, that's ahead of you, someone who has the ability to offer you advice, someone who has the ability to know where you've been, see where you're going, offer you advice, pray for you, walk alongside you. And so really a mentor can be anyone who fulfills those requirements. Now, I would say that it is important that this person sees you on a regular basis, that this person knows what you're like as a, in my case, a husband, a father, a pastor, whatever, roles you fill, same thing, right? They need to see every aspect of your life so that they can speak into it, they can call you on things, they can make sure that they are understanding what it is in life that you do and how you do it. But really, if they're able to do those things, they don't have to be from your church, they don't have to be your next door neighbor, but it is important that you're in a relationship with them and that relationship is committed. So basically, this next question kind of feeds into that, and it's a good question, but it is, how do I find someone that I could be accountable to? And so, a great place to start is your church. A great place to start is somebody who you do life with, somebody who is a part of your church community or your faith walk. But it doesn't have to be that. For many, many years, I was a part of a men's group that met in Woodbury, and actually no one from our church went there, and most of the time nobody that I knew before I entered that group went there. But as I continued to attend the group, and as I continued to get to know some of the guys that were in the group, there were men in the group who were in the next stage of life than me. There were other pastors who were a part of that group. And eventually I started to be able to trust them. They started to know things about me that I had shared, stuff that I had been able to bring up that was going on in my personal life, whether it was my marriage or my raising kids, whatever the case may be. And so they were sort of able to start speaking into my life about those things. And so those guys became mentors, at least for a period of time, for me. And it was a cool experience, and eventually, because of my church schedule and stage of life, I stopped going to that group, but I still stay in touch with a couple of those guys from time to time over social media and stuff, and it's just one other way that you could find someone. But back to the actual question. What I think you need to look for is someone who you respect, someone who you trust, because you're going to be sharing your, deepest, darkest secrets, your motives, your heart's desires with these people. You're going to be sharing what's going on and going wrong in your family life, things that you feel like God may be challenging you on or calling you to or calling you on. And so all of these things have to be shared in order for this mentoring relationship to really fulfill its purpose. And so you want to trust this person. You want to trust, perhaps their husband or their wife as well, because there's a chance that, a situation could come up that they would want to speak to their spouse about. And they shouldn't be doing that willy-nilly, but, there should be an understanding that, yes, you've given them permission to do that. But, you want to trust their family as well. The next thing is proximity, right? You don't want somebody necessarily to be your mentor if they're not involved in your life. Now, does this mean that the internet is not a magical place where people see all that goes on and no, right? Like there are people who can mentor you over the internet. You can have Zoom calls, you can have FaceTime conversations. You can, and in my case, there are pastors, who I could meet with that live halfway across the country or halfway around the world because we have a shared experience. So do they have to be a part of your life, like by living in your exact neighborhood or town? No, they don't. But what they need is proximity to your actual life in the sense that they know and understand what it's like to be you and what it's like to be on the other side of you. So perhaps, they have a relationship with your whole family. They have a relationship with your coworkers as well, so that they understand what it's like to be on the other side of you. Or, as I was going to say next, is they share a vocation with you, or they share a hobby with you. Find someone with whom you share, multiple areas of life so that they, again, know what it's like to be you and perhaps know what it's like to look like existing on the opposite side of you. And in that situation, it just helps them to give more insight and have more opportunity. You guys can do more stuff together. I have a really good friend who I ride bike with, and he has permission to ask me any question about my life, about my marriage, about being a dad, about being a pastor at any time. I am accountable to him. But the fact that we both like to ride bike, the fact that we both have kids, the fact that we both attend church means that we have a lot of things in common. Now, is this guy my mentor? In a lot of ways, yes. He teaches me stuff all the time, but is he my accountability partner? 100% absolutely. So there is a little bit of a line there, right? There are people to whom you are accountable to that you will not necessarily view as a mentoring relationship, but they will from time to time speak into your life and teach you things. So the difference I would say that's important is that a mentor is usually someone who has more experience than you, which, people do in any area of life. But usually when you're looking for someone to mentor you, it's because you see them in that next stage of life in many areas from you, and you want them to have permission to teach you how to become more like them as they are hopefully becoming more like Jesus. So as that plays out, this accountability person that I have does know more than me in a lot of stages, does have kids a little bit older than me. So that can kind of serve a dual purpose, but it doesn't always have to, and it won't always be something where that works out nicely. I do have other pastors that I speak to and respect and have relationship with. I have a couple men that speak into my life from an older stage, so it works well for me. And for you, you can have a mentor in your work life, you can have a mentor in your marriage life, you can have a mentor as a parent, you can have a mentor as just a person who attends church and wants to know what that looks like as a lay person. Look that one up if you don't know what laity means. A little fun Ask Aaron homework for you. Anyway, I think I've touched on all of the things. The most important thing for both of these things is that these people want to and are, in your estimation, following Christ, that they are trying to be the best person that they can be, that Jesus has called them to be, and you see that evidenced throughout the entirety of their life, because you don't want to be allowing someone to speak into your life and to hold you accountable if they're not the kind of person that you would want to be or that you think Jesus is calling them to be. All right, last question, and to be totally honest, I don't know where this one came from a sermon perspective, but it's a great question, so I'll just answer it because it's a great question. Is cremation unbiblical? Now, this might at first blush to you seem to be like, why would that even be a thing? And there are a lot of people who have this question. It's not so much a question anymore, but it has been a question, and it has especially been a question for older people because they, it's not like it's a newer practice, but it's something that's becoming more and more popular. So just to start, there are reasons, if you looked in your Bible, that you might think that there are anti-cremation stances, right? There's a story about Abraham and his wife Sarah. There are stories about Joseph and Egypt. There are stories about the burial of Moses and things that happen with the New Testament, Lazarus, right? All of these people are buried in their full bodily form. There's also sort of a truth that the idea of cremation comes from sort of pagan roots, that, burning the body and the ashes of humans being spread or whatever has some root in pagan practice. That being said, I think the main reason that people struggle with this idea of cremation is because they think about when Jesus comes again and recreates heaven and earth and puts together people, that they worry that if the body has been burned and spread across different areas or parts of the world or whatever, that Jesus won't be able to put it back together again. Jesus won't be able to form our body again because we have burned the body and we have spread it across all these different areas. Now, I will say that the Old Testament does say very clearly that we were created by God from scratch, from dust, and that we will return to dust, and that, left unchecked, your body would eventually decay into, dust and dirt and whatever gross, thing you want to think of. It would just all be housed in one place, either, in a casket or a box or however you were buried. And I do understand the absolute want for you to be able to be put back together. But I think that what's important that we realize is that not only are you and I physical beings, but you and I are spiritual beings. That we are first and foremost spiritual beings, and that eternally we will exist spiritually, and we do exist spiritually. And so when Jesus comes back and God creates a new heaven and a new earth, we will receive new physical bodies. We will be the same spiritual person who has been remade in the image of Jesus, and made perfect and able to spend eternity with God forever, but we will receive new physical bodies, just like there will be a new heaven and a new earth. So while I understand that this is a scary thing, or, I don't think it's unbiblical. And in fact, 1 Corinthians chapter 15 talks about how our created body for the new heaven and the new earth is a spiritual creation. And so what does that look like compared to the physical body that you have now? I don't know. But I know that whether you were buried in one spot or you were cremated and spread throughout the world, that God created everything out of nothing and has the power to create all of us again back, together when we go to new heaven and new earth. So don't be worried about it. If you don't want to be cremated, don't be cremated. But I don't think you should lambaste your friends and judge them if that's the choice that they make. I'm laughing because I have told Emily that after I die, she can just put me in the backyard because I believe that I'm going to be with Jesus and he'll figure everything out. I'm not laughing because I don't think this is a serious thing. I'm just saying that I trust God in this manner to put us back together and to be with him. So with that being said, thank you for asking, Aaron. I hope you feel completely comfortable asking me questions. The last few weeks have been really great. You guys have been asking awesome questions, and I'm really enjoying this. I'm thankful so many people watch. As always, you can join us, hillcityhudson.org/media. You can join us on the app, or you can join us in person for Hill City Church 10 a.m. service this week. We're talking about the problems that we face in life and how ignoring them is not really an actual solution. So we hope you'll join us. Otherwise, we'll see you next week for Ask Aaron.